Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to Natural Health on the Deen Channel with me, Dr. Fatima Paruk. We hope to bring you up-to-date and informative information on the world of natural health, different practitioners and medicines that are currently available here. Today with us we have Dr. Catherine Knight from Health Haven in Westville, and she is currently a homeopath, acupuncturist, a Chinese medical therapist and a functional medical practitioner. She's here today to tell us a little more about what she does. Thank you, Dr. Knight, for joining us here today at our Durban studio. It's lovely to have you.
Pleasure.
Dr. Knight, tell me, you're a homeopath, a Chinese medical practitioner, you're an acupuncturist as well, and I see now your newest development in your practice is functional medicine. Can you tell us a little bit about this and how you integrate them?
Yes. Functional medicine is actually something that I started looking into a number of years ago. So I've actually included it for a good 5 or 6 years already in my practice as another tool in the arsenal that we can use with patients. Functional medicine really appealed to me because it's a really in-depth look at the biochemistry of our body, really drilling into it quite deeply, into how enzymes work and how your different genetic patterns and variations do affect how your body works. It's a really interesting and very scientific and biochemical look at how our body works holistically. So when you get into the biochemistry in one system, and you begin to realize how it massively affects another system. So when the gut is out of balance, then there are very direct links in the biochemistry of what other systems it does affect. So already coming from a natural medicine field, being a homeopath and understanding Chinese medicine, really understanding the holistic nature of our body and how we do work, different systems knock onto each other. The functional medicine has given me a really good biochemical and scientific basis for how that works. So it has helped me understand my Chinese medicine better, and certainly how to integrate the different therapies together.
So when a patient comes to you on a general day and has a specific issue, is it quite easy to decipher what therapy you're going to use for them, or is it based particularly on the problem that they're presenting with?
Well, as always, it is definitely based on the person, the problem that they're presenting with, the individual. That is what all natural therapies and holistic medicine is about, is looking at you individually and understanding where exactly are you out of balance? What systems are out of balance? What are the predominant symptoms some symptoms might be the most annoying to the patient and the most irritating, and why they came to your office, but it isn't necessarily the basis of where the problem comes from. So it's quite hard at this point in my practice to discern, I'm just going to use this therapy or that, because I actually do use quite an eclectic mix of them all, because they really do dovetail beautifully together, and the synergy that you can create, the synergistic healing effect that you can create with the different therapies combined is quite beautiful. So it's important to understand that on a biological level, and if our biochemistry is lacking vitamin D and iron and certain basic chemicals, which we think we shouldn't be missing these days. But it's incredible to me how many iron deficient patients I find. Vitamin D deficiency is something terribly rough, and these are basic building blocks that our body uses for so many different functions. So it's important to understand what of those are missing in the biology, because without them you can't really correct healing. You can't correct health. You can maintain and you can suppress and you can prevent things from getting much worse in a way, but you can't really affect proper healing, which is something that I always try to elicit with patients. It's not good enough to just help your headaches relieve or help your gut symptoms relieve. It's important to try and get to the root of the problem and to try and fix things. So when you're working with the functional medicine aspect, you can You can work with real sort of nutraceuticals and things like that, and other herbal medicines in a different way, and then include the homeopathy and the Chinese medicine where it is necessary.
And how open are patients to this? Do they come to you particularly because you're going to provide them with the nice diversity of natural therapies, or are they hesitant in combining different therapies for healing?
Okay, so most of them are quite open to it. I think by the time they walk through my door, they've been through quite a lot already, as many other natural health practitioners realize, and so they're open to whatever needs to be done. Most of them. I do get a number of people who seek me out because I do functional medicine. It is something that they have come across in their research, and they're looking for functional medicine practitioners. So some of them don't necessarily know that I am a homeopath or what have you, but they're looking from a functional medicine perspective, and others from seeking me out because of the acupuncture and the Chinese medicine, or because of the homeopathy. And to be honest, it's quite seldom that I will ever use one of the disciplines with someone.
Okay, that's really, really interesting, because I know I did some research on functional medicine as well. And the thing that really intrigued me is that, most therapists focus on the disease process, diagnosing it and treating it effectively. But functional medicine takes it to a deeper level, a cellular level, as you described. How are patients adapting to that movement, that shift in treatment focus from a superficial level to a very deep level? And how do they handle the information, giving them feedback about their biochemical levels, their blood levels? And from what I hear, this testing as well is quite specific.
Yes. I think people are welcoming it very much. With the age of information, people have already done a lot of their own research and will continue to, and should. I think it's great that people are Googling things, as much as there's lots of misinformation out there. It's people are taking a lot more responsibility and taking charge of their health, and realizing that the superficial level is not fixing anything. It's not healing them, and it's not good enough to keep putting a lid on your symptoms. It's important to go deeper. And so there is a welcoming of a deeper look, that someone can take the time to really look inwards at them and what is actually going on, and test different levels and really get an idea and information about what's going on with them. I do a lot of education in my consultations. I'm always running late, if you ask my patients and my receptionist, because there's so much to say. There's so much information to glean from the patient. There's so much information to get from their entire body, that it does take a while to get that information, and then to discern what's going on. And then I do a lot of explaining. People need to understand what stress does to them, what things are stressful. They don't know that if you don't sleep properly at night and you're waking frequently, that is a high stress level in your body, and it's going to have an effect. Certain norms of society that we are used to are not what our body physiologically is used to. Our biochemistry is not designed to run at the pace that we do all the time. So getting information about how they've got to their place of ill health is very empowering. It takes away blame, and it takes away mystery, and it takes away that element that sometimes people have of, poor me, why does it happen to me? It's not fair. But when you understand what has happened to you, how it's happened, how life has got you to that place, then we want to know, okay, well, what is out of balance then? So the testing is quite specific, very different ways of looking at the biochemistry. So interesting markers that you can look at in the bloodstream that give us information about health. Really important to look at the adrenal health. Everyone is on the rat race, and that is draining the adrenals and therefore draining the rest of our body physically. So people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, I think, and so really looking for a deeper answers to their questions, which can be found with functional medicine and other natural methods.
So functional medicine really provides them with a different alternative. It's natural, yet it's more intense. It looks at things, at a much deeper cellular level. How do we use functional medicine best for a patient? Is it better used in acute conditions, chronic conditions? I would say there's a lot of scope for it as well in prophylaxis.
Definitely. So where I find it extremely beneficial is in the chronic disease realm. So that is in things like metabolic syndrome, where insulin resistance, stubborn weight gain isn't just weight, it's inflammation in the body, heart disease, all the cardiovascular diseases, the amount of diabetes and things like that is rife, which is a chronic disease that has a long-standing pattern of imbalance before diabetes 2 hits. I'm talking about diabetes 2 particularly. So it is almost it's almost essential in the chronic disease realm. There's little healing that can happen if the body is chronically ill. And there will be multiple systems that are out of balance there. So it's definitely very effective there. But also in the prophylactic stage, of course, because there's ways of understanding that the different systems that are out of balance, and then you can detect those imbalances before there is any actual disease or actual pathology. Before a disease is picked up, there's this large scope of a functional imbalance in our bodies. Those when you just really don't feel well. I'm not feeling myself. I'm not sleeping well enough. I don't have enough energy. My appetite is off. Getting some headaches, having some aches and pains, having some bowel disturbances. Those kind of things are not necessarily diagnosable pathologies, but they are ill health. And so when you can pick up where those things are, what systems are going out of balance, and that you're going to land up with a pathology down the line. So yes, it's very beneficial in sort of catching those conditions before they become a disease pattern as such.
And I find people are not aware that you can actually walk into a practitioner and say, listen, these things are not feeling the way they should in my body. I've noticed it. Obviously, if I go to a GP and they do testing, it's all going to be subclinical. We're not going to be able to put a finger on it. Yet I do feel this way. So, there are tests that are out there, and there are practitioners that are out there that can go through the systems and find those minute imbalances and make headway with those symptoms before they actually develop into a disease state.
Yes, because when we're looking at blood tests, for example, which is sort of the standard then to test for whether there is or isn't something wrong. Blood tests and then the certain imaging like ultrasound and x-rays and things, but blood tests being the main go-to. When you look at a blood test, the reference ranges that you see on those blood tests are very much a ballpark figure. And they're very much a wide reference range from that gives you an idea of roughly where the average Joe should be. But either side of those reference ranges are slipping into the pathology. So a conventional doctor will have a look at a number, and if it doesn't fall into a low or a high, then there's nothing to look at. But in functional medicine, we get to understand the optimal levels for these things. So it may not be deficient, no, but it's also very far from an optimal level. And when you're not in for example, a vitamin D, for example, say, a vitamin D deficiency is fairly low, but once you're deficient in vitamin D, there are a large number of things in your body that are no longer working, and only more important systems are getting the resources of the vitamin D. So just outside or just inside of the deficiency, where you're not deficient, it still means that you're nowhere near an optimal functioning in your body. So the difference there is a disease state or not a disease state, or an optimal health state. And I think that's where the difference is. Those learning how to understand those different levels on blood tests discerns us as to how far away from an optimal health is this person and how close to a disease pattern are they. So even if something isn't deficient, it may require some supplementation or some change in diet or something like that to bring those levels up to a more optimal level, because you want your body to have more than enough to use, not only just enough.
Definitely. And how do you find patients in terms of compliance with these kind of things? Are they open to taking supplementation before symptoms, start inhibiting their way of life? Are they okay with taking supplements versus, chemical medications or allopathic drugs? Are they able to integrate the two? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, most people who come to me are ready to take what needs to be taken, I think, because their symptoms are already disturbing enough that they are seeking help for it, right? So most are willing to take. Most would like me to try and squash it all into one pill, which is impossible. When we're looking at things from a holistic perspective, we need to understand that we're feeding many different parts of our body at the same time. So some things are nutritional that we need. We all really do need to take the omega oils. They are called essential fatty acids for a reason. They are really essential for our health. Certain things that we need to supplement are giving us the basics of what we need. And then we have certain things that are medicinal or therapeutic that are needed. So certain vitamins can be used in a therapeutic manner, whereas they're not just a supplement to add to your diet, but they are taking things from a deficient level to an optimal level, and therefore we need them in a therapeutic dose. So there's a variety, and I think also because I use a combination of, personally, I use a combination of medicines. There are a fair number of things to take because we're working on different systems at the same time. So certain things are feeding the body, certain things are supporting the adrenals. If that person has a reproductive health issue that is also predominant, like many women do, then there will be certain things that I'm doing specifically for that, depending on, or there are gut health issues and we're needing to replace good gut flora and do some gut healing in the intestines. So depending obviously on what that person needs, we need to use a combination of medicines and supplements at the same time. And that way we get fast and effective results in healing. So I think in the beginning, people are a little reticent, or it's difficult to take a number of tablets and get into the routine of that and stick to it. But most patients feel the benefit of it fairly quickly. I know one of the things I hear the most is that natural medicine takes such a long time to work, and I didn't have time and I needed a quick fix, but it actually doesn't take a long time to work, and people are regularly amazed at how fast they start feeling better. The things that change your day quickly is, sure, I got a really good night's sleep. When you sleep well, you feel better already in that day. You have more energy, you're able to tackle the next thing better. When we're working on an adrenal and a nervous system level, if you're feeling a bit calmer in that day and you're not feeling as anxious, you slept better, you're feeling calmer, you have better interactions with people, you got through your day better, you were more productive, work was a bit better, and so quite quickly you can start seeing really good changes in how you're feeling in the day. So it doesn't take too long for people to understand they're really getting somewhere, and so then they got their head in the game and are ready to take what they need to.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that seems to be a common problem across the board with any form of natural healing or therapy, is that it takes too long. People have this misconception that it takes too long. Often it does take time to reverse a process, and I think that's what people don't seem to understand, is that we're not just going in there to remove your symptoms, but essentially to relieve your symptoms a little bit, but the long-term goal is always health, optimum health. So we want to reverse the symptoms, and that does take time. How open to the time period are your patients? I know you did say they tend to feel well quite quickly, and that's usually attributed by the quality of the supplements you give them.
Absolutely. Yes.
But how open are they to staying in it and sticking through it for a couple of months till they can actually see on blood levels and on disease progression that some change is being made?
So that does vary with patients, but I do feel that it's got a lot to do with their education, their understanding of what is going on and what we're doing. So when you say, when people say it takes a long time to work, we need to look at what it means to work. What does it working actually entail? So if you're used to a conventional approach where working means my headache went away in half an hour, did the medicine work or not? Working is the removal of the symptom that made you feel unwell. But when we're looking at it from a natural medicine perspective, working is we have healed and resolved the condition. It's a very different place. So healing is a return to normal structure and function, not the suppression of something or the maintenance of something or the stimulation of something. It is a return to normal structure and function. So that, yes, it is a process of healing. There is a process of needing to clean out the junk. There's a process of needing to look at what has gone wrong, feed the body with what it needs, remove what needs to be removed, and then it can return to normal. So there is a process of healing involved that does take some time and can have symptoms that you still feel unwell with. But there are ways of explaining that to your patient, that they are understanding of it and therefore kind of in it for the long run. So that is also very dependent. How willing are they to go the course, stay the course? That is very dependent on why they came to see me in the first place. So how fed up are you of how you feel? Those people are willing to do what it takes. Change my diet, do this, do that. And of course it takes a combination of all of that. We have to stop continuing a disease process. So one of the first tenets of homeopathy from the father of homeopathy, he said one of the first things was to remove the obstacle to cure. We cannot even begin to affect any kind of healing if there is something coming at you that is continuously putting you out of balance. So that's also about looking at your diet. What is a continuous obstacle to cure? Are you hell-bent on eating bread and pastries and pastas and wheat products when when the gluten is causing an intolerance reaction and your body is inflaming all the time? When your immune system is having a reaction to these foods? When dairy is as one of the most common allergens, actually, and intolerances. When those are something that is going into your body all the time and you're having a continuous response to it, that is an obstacle to cure. We need to look at those things, remove those things. So one of the things I really enjoy about functional medicine as well is that it has a food first approach. Not medicines first, food first. Food first approach to be, let's look at that diet. What is coming in that shouldn't be, that is not just bad for you or chemical laden, but causing an immune response in your body, and nutrients and things. And then we move to the medicine side of it.
It's really, really interesting. We just have a few minutes left. So on the last note, I'd like to ask, because you mentioned a little earlier about gut health, how much of a role do you think gut health plays in wellness and disease and chronic disease?
It is absolutely critical. It is the key and the core of most of it. Gut health and adrenal health basically are the two. Gut health is affected by many, many different things. Gut health is affected by medicines that are taken, by pH in your body, and extremely by stress, and obviously by diet. And if you were to take a sample of the population, you'd probably find that at least 80 to 90% of people have some kind of gut issue. And it starts from young. And the gut is really one of the cores of our health, the system, because more than roughly about 70% of our immune system sits in our gut, as well as about 70% of our nervous system sits in our gut. So emotions and anxiety and stress affects your gut health. We know that when you're stressed, you feel butterflies in your tummy. Right? Mm-hmm. So we have this immediate connection in our gut. We actually manufacture a lot of the brain chemicals we need for our nervous system. We manufacture them in the gut. So it's a central part that is not only receiving food particles that we need, nutrients that we need for good, healthy functioning, but it's also a place where we're trying to keep out things that we shouldn't be putting into our body. That's why we have such a high level of our immune system there. And so it's a place where we react quite quickly to foods and certain things, and yeah, it's absolutely integral to our health. And one of the tenets of functional medicine is actually, and I've heard a number of the speakers at conferences say that if it's a very confusing case and there's loads of things going on and this person is very ill and you don't know what to do, you start with their gut.
That's really interesting. I'm actually quite sad that I've got to stop you because this has been so interesting and informative. I'm really hoping that you'll afford us the time and opportunity to come again sometime so we can speak about other topics.
With pleasure.
Thanks, Dr. Knight. It was lovely to have you. Thank you for joining us today on Natural Health. We look forward to having Dr. Catherine Knight join us again to talk about infertility, gut health, and chemical detox. Remember to have your natural health questions answered by dropping us an email to the email address that appears on your screen. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.